In 1590, an Englishman stepped ashore on an island he had left 3 years earlier. He had left behind a settlement, more than 100 people, his daughter, his granddaughter. He found the houses gone, no bodies, no graves, no sign of a struggle, just a wooden post at the edge of the clearing, and one word carved into it: CROATOAN. This is the Lost Colony of Roanoke, and the real story is not the one most people were told. It begins in 1587. England wanted a foothold in North America, not a fort, not a trading post, a colony, families, farms, permanence. An earlier attempt on the same island had already failed badly. That group had been mostly soldiers. They ran short of food, fell into conflict with the local Algonquian communities, and abandoned the site. The second attempt was meant to be different. This time they brought women and children, around 115 people, led by an artist and mapmaker named John White. They were not supposed to settle on Roanoke Island at all. The plan was to sail further north to the Chesapeake and build there. The ship's pilot refused to take them. He left them on Roanoke instead. Almost immediately, things went wrong. Relations with the surrounding communities were already poisoned by what the previous expedition had done. One colonist was killed while gathering crabs alone. Supplies were thin. Within weeks, the colonists pressed John White to sail back to England for help. He did not want to go. His daughter Eleanor had just given birth on the island to a girl named Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas, and his granddaughter. He went anyway. He expected to be back within months. And then history intervened. England went to war with Spain. Every seaworthy vessel in the country was seized for the defense of the realm. The Spanish Armada sailed in 1588. John White spent 3 years trying to get a ship. When he finally reached Roanoke again, it was August 1590. His granddaughter would have been 3 years old. The settlement was empty. But here is the detail that matters, and it is the detail that usually gets left out. The houses had not been destroyed. They had been taken apart, dismantled carefully, the timber removed, as people do when they intend to rebuild somewhere else. A defensive palisade had been built around the site, and on that palisade post, carved into the wood, was the word CROATOAN. On a nearby tree, 3 letters: CRO. No cross. That last detail is the key to the whole story. Before White left for England, he had agreed on a signal with the colonists. If they moved, they would carve the name of their destination, and if they were forced to leave under attack, they would carve a Maltese cross beside it. There was no cross. The message was not a cry for help. It was a forwarding address. CROATOAN was a real place, an island to the south, known today as Hatteras Island, home to the CROATOAN people, the one group in the region that had remained friendly to the English. White knew exactly where it was. He was, in his own words, relieved. He prepared to sail south to find them. And then the weather turned. A storm hit the fleet. Anchors were lost. Cables snapped. The ships were in danger of being driven onto the shoals. The captain refused to stay. They sailed for the open Atlantic and then for England. John White never saw the coast of North America again. He died in Ireland a few years later, without ever learning what happened to his family. So the colonists did not vanish into thin air. They left a note saying where they were going, and the one man who understood the note was physically unable to follow it. Which turns the mystery into a different question. What happened after they got there? The most likely answer is the least dramatic one. There were roughly 100 people, low on supplies, in a land they did not know how to farm. Splitting up would have made survival easier. Some probably went to CROATOAN and were absorbed into the community there. Others may have moved inland, west along the Albemarle Sound. Archaeology supports both possibilities. Excavations on Hatteras Island have turned up English objects of the right period mixed into native settlement layers. At a separate site inland, sometimes called Site X, archaeologists have found fragments of Elizabethan pottery of a type that ordinary sailors did not carry, in a location matching a marking hidden under a patch on one of John White's own maps. None of it is conclusive. Trade moved goods around. A pot found in a village does not prove the people who owned it lived there, but the pattern points the same direction. Not annihilation, absorption. There is one more piece worth knowing. Tree ring records from the region show that the colony was left alone, 1587 to 1589, fell inside the most severe drought that area had experienced in roughly 800 years. The colonists arrived at the worst possible agricultural moment in centuries. So did everyone else living there. Food would have been scarce for the native communities too, which makes 100 hungry strangers a heavy burden to absorb, and makes conflict over resources more likely. Later, English settlers in the region recorded accounts of native people who had grey eyes, or who claimed ancestors who could speak in a book. Those stories are second-hand, recorded decades later, and impossible to verify. They are also exactly what you would expect if the answer is the simple one. The colonists did not disappear. They stopped being English. They joined the people already living there, and within a generation or two, the line between the two groups dissolved into families who no longer thought of themselves as separate. That is not a supernatural ending. It is a quieter one. 115 people walked off a beach, left a note, and became part of something else. And the only reason it looks like a mystery is that the one man who could have read the note was stuck on a ship, watching a storm push him away from his granddaughter for the last time. If stories like this keep you curious, stay close. There is more buried in this channel waiting to be found.